guys, it's Dr. Bickling from Own It Dental. As always, here's my contact information if you need to get a hold of me. And if you guys are enjoying these videos, please do hit that like button, hit that thumbs up button. It's right down below. It only takes you a second because I'm here trying to give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Speaking of competitive advantages in the marketplace, as you all know, when I had Strong Smiles Dental Care, we were open 7 days a week. And I'm here to tell you how being open 7 days a week does give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace. So let's dig into it. Like I said, when I had my offices and we were open 7 days a week, I had an absolute competitive advantage in the marketplace. And it wasn't just that patients wanted to come in and see me evenings and weekends. You know, a funny story, when I made an announcement that our offices were going from 6 days a week to 7 days a week, I announced it on Facebook, and there was somebody who posted, "Dentistry on Sundays? No, thank you." And I doubt that person was a patient. I kind of think that person probably worked in the industry. So the only people that don't want dentistry 7 days a week are the ones that are working in it. But in any case, if you incentivize your people enough, they will work on Sundays. So. But in any case, being open 7 days a week gave me advantages in the marketplace well beyond just whatever the patients wanting to come in on evenings and weekends. And I'm going to get into some mathematical reasons why being open 7 days a week makes a lot of sense. All right, so let's just start digging into it here. So, like I said, when I owned Strong Smiles, I just had a simple slogan: 7 days a week. Right? That's all we had to say. That was our slogan: Strong Smiles Dental Care, 7 days a week. But as you know, since I sold Strong Smiles, we had 7 doctors when I was there, and now it's down to in 2 offices, and now it's down to 1 office and 1 doctor. They went from being open 7 days a week to 6 days a week to 5 days a week to 4.5 days a week, and now one of their offices is closed. So certainly we were one of the fastest growing corporations in the United States 3 years in a row on the Inc. 5000 list, and it's because I had that competitive advantage in the marketplace. And we're going to dig into the math of that a little bit. So my offices were open 72 hours a week in terms of chair side hours. But, staff comes in, a little early, stays a little late. So they probably were in the office, 79 to 80 hours a week. But this is where I think some confusion comes in, because I've had asked this: did you work 80 hours a week? And the answer is no, I didn't work 80 hours a week. The nice thing about 79 or 72 or 80 hours a week is it divides nicely by 2. I had 2 sets of staff. I firmly believe, and I've said this in the last video, I'm going to say this in future videos, I firmly believe that in dentistry, you and your staff should really only work 3, maybe 4 days a week max. I think you should always have 3 days a week off. A couple of those days that you are working might have to be a little longer days just to make up the hours. But as long as you have the next day off, who cares, right? You can recover, sleep in the next day, get all the stuff done that you need to have done. So, my staff might be coming in 80 hours a week. Compare this with a traditional dental office that's only open, on average about 35 hours a week. We were open twice as much, which means that we also have the opportunity to produce twice as much. But the mathematical advantage goes well beyond just being able to produce twice as much. And that's what we're going to dig into today. So we've gone into this in other videos, and I might revisit this again in a little bit more detail. But today we're just going to kind of briefly go over this. In dentistry and in business, we have both fixed and variable costs. Your variable costs are the ones that rise or fall relative to your production. So the more production goes up, these are going to go up in the same relative percentage. Your fixed costs are the ones, they just stay the same no matter what. Your rent's going to stay the same no matter what, marketing. So let's just go through these briefly. You'll see that I have staff salary on here twice, and I'll get into why that is in a second here. But your doctor's salary is going to be a variable cost. If you're paying your doctors, 30% of whatever they produce, the more they produce, 30% of that is going to get bigger and bigger. Most companies shoot for their doctor salaries to be at about 25% of total revenue, because remember, there's hygienists in there producing as well. Your lab fees should come in under 5% of top line revenue. If they're not, make sure you're getting a hold of using those negotiated lab fees that we have here. Your supply costs also should come in, under 3%, but certainly under 5%. But let's just do 25% plus, 5% plus another 5%. That's 35%. And then, your staff salaries, I think a well-run office, your staff salary should be 25% or less. But I've heard doctors, I can't get it under 30%. And so let's just use 30% as an example, right? And the reason why I have variable cost or staff salaries in the variable cost, technically it's a fixed cost, but if you're going to be open twice as much as the dentist across the street, well, then your staff salaries are going to be twice as much because you're going to have basically two staff. So I'm going to add that as a variable cost, and let's just call it 30%, right? So, a not so well-run dental office. So we get, 25% plus 5%, that's 30, plus 35, plus another 30, that's 65%. But let's just say your variable costs are as high as 70%. Well, that means that 30% goes to all of this stuff over here. And in my opinion, that's probably a break-even office. If your variable costs are 70%, you're probably, the other 30% is just, pay all of this other stuff right here. And maybe the owner doctor is paying themselves like an associate or something along those lines. So in any case, your variable cost should fall under 70%, but let's just say it's 70% just for round numbers. And then that means, the other 30% is what goes to paying your bills. But when you're open 7 days a week, it's that other 30% where you make your money. And this is what we're going to get into here in a second. So let's just say you're a typical, 4-day-a-week doc. You're doing pretty well. You're doing, $100,000 a month, right? That, you and your hygiene team and everything, you're producing $100,000 a month. You pay yourself, as if you're an associate, right? So you've got your percentage, and then you've got your lab fees and your supply costs and your staff salaries. Those are all your variable costs right here, and those add up to 70%. So that'd be $70,000. And then there's the, leftover $30,000 that goes to pay for all the fixed costs. And like I said, this is probably just a break-even practice. If your variable costs are that high, this is probably just a break-even practice, so on and so forth. But remember, these fixed costs don't change no matter what you produce. If your production goes up, these don't change. These stay the same. And they actually go down as a percentage of top line revenue. So this is a single doc practice, open 4 days a week, it's most dentists out there. That's what they're doing, right? But what if we were open twice as much? What if we were open closer to 80 hours a week and we had two doctors in there working opposite each other, and they're both doing the $100,000 a month, their teams? Well, now we're producing $200,000 a month. You're going to pay the docs just like you would an associate, right? You got your lab fees, they're going to be the same percentage. Your supply costs are going to be the same percentage, and your staff salary. And again, let's assume that this office is run at, all of these are at 70% of top line revenue, which I think it should come in well below that. But let's just say it's at 70%. But your fixed costs are still only $30K, because again, your rent doesn't go up. Your other fixed costs, they just basically stay the same. But instead, now that 30% that's left over of top line revenue, it's not 30K anymore, it's 60K. So, but you're using that 60K to pay these fixed costs. That means you have, just do the math, 30K left over, 15% in profit. Now, then add a third doctor or a fourth doctor, maybe only working two doctors at a time. You have two doctors working one shift, two doctors working another shift. You're open 80 hours a week. That goes to $300,000 a month, $400,000 a month. Your variable costs are going to stay the same. They're still going to stay, 70% of top line revenue on a not so well run practice. But it's that 30% that's left over. That's your arbitrage. That's where you really make your money. It's as you're driving up the top line revenue, because you're simply open more, than the guy across the street. You're basically becoming 2 or 3 or 4 dental offices in one, and this fixed costs, because they stay the same, they become a smaller and smaller percentage of top line revenue. And as you start to drive that production up, just by doctors being doctors, just doing the things that they would normally do, your profit starts to go up and up and up from there. So because you're having more money to pull from to pay for those fixed costs. So In any case, that's the arbitrage. That's really where you get your money from when you're open 6 and 7 days a week. So, in any case, there's a lot of other reasons to be open 7 days a week. Like I said, the patients want you open those times. You're going to be able to grow your practice. You're going to be able to provide opportunities for your staff. But, if you just follow the math, if you just follow the numbers, being open 6 and 7 days a week, there's just no reason to not do it. And the only reason to not do it are the people who don't want to be there in the first place. But again, if you incentivize those behaviors, then you'll get the staff that are going to want to work those hours. So just gotta give them a reason to. You gotta give them a internal and external fairness reason to do it. So in any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's going to take a lot of work for me to convince you to be open 7 days a week, but trust me, only good things happen when your office is open 7 days a week. So again, I'm Dr. Bickling. Here's my contact information. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like it, go to ownitdental.com or click the link above and check out my services. I have dozens of hours of training videos, and I've negotiated reduced lab fees for all my clients. So if you want to get out of the dental chair and start owning your business, go to ownitdental.com and check out my services, and I'll see you soon.